Hello everyone and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. We have a great show lined up for you today, including some information about striped rust spotted in wheat fields in southwestern Oklahoma. We'll have more on that coming up. But first, SUNUP's Curtis Hare is talking with Dr. Derrell Peel about the cases of avian influenza that have been reported in dairy cattle. The first time this has ever happened.
We're going to change it up a little bit today on Livestock Marketing as cases of avian influenza are spreading throughout Texas and to some other states. So Derrell, the USDA announced last week that there were cases of avian influenza in some dairy cows. So get us up to speed.
Yeah, so this is a brand new thing. We've never found high-path avian influenza in cows before. So the last week of March, USDA made an announcement that some unusual symptoms that had been noticed in dairy cows was confirmed to be high-path avian influenza. So there was an initial market reaction to that, a lot of uncertainty because this is kind of a new thing for us, and there's still a lot we don't know. But the market reacted initially, as it often does, the futures market, I should say, both live and feeder cattle futures sharply lower just because of the uncertainty, and then. So that was the initial market reaction.
So getting caught up to this week, this past week really. What's happened with there? There's been more cases, right?
There's been more cases in Kansas and I think Idaho and some other states now. It's starting to show up. And there's a couple of new things. One is that there is the possibility, at least, that this stuff is moving from cow to cow, even though it's avian influenza. And also, Texas announced last week that a worker on one of the dairy farms was diagnosed with avian influenza as well. So that was on Monday, April 1st. And so it was kind of right at the end of the trading day. The market reacted obviously very negatively again, just because, again, there's a lot of uncertainty at this point. It's a very fluid situation in terms of the veterinary implications as well as broader market implications.
Because a lot of this is pretty new, right? With dairy cattle and this spreading to that hasn't happened in a really long time, right?
Yeah, it is. It's the first time it's happened in terms of moving to cows. And again, the possibility that it's moving cow to cow creates a whole new possibility. And then it's only the second time that high-path avian influenza has been found in people. So lots of uncertainty, lots of new things going on here.
Definitely concerning. So what are the next steps for the beef and cattle industry?
Well, and that's the interesting thing is that, we're affecting both the dairy industry, potentially the beef industry. Now, I want to emphasize that officials are saying from, in terms of dairy products and human impacts, no risk there, okay? And the same thing for beef products as well. But, the implications for animal management and disease management are still kind of unknown because we don't really know how this thing is transferring at this point. And of course, the other possibility is that there could be some, international implications of this. We've not seen anything yet. Don't really expect to see anything, but you just never know at this point. So again, a lot of uncertainty. Even by the time this airs, there may be some significant changes to what we're saying today.
So are there any steps that Oklahoma producers can do in a situation like this? Like, do we know of even the symptoms that they should be looking out for if they're concerned?
Well, obviously dairies are being put on high alert to enhance biosecurity. More than likely this stuff is coming in as wild birds are getting into feed supplies or being near feed supplies. So dairies are certainly, doing some specific steps in terms of management. On the beef cow side, we don't know that it's been in any beef cows. The symptoms are actually relatively mild in the cattle, so it might be hard to detect. I think the main thing that producers, from a market standpoint, given that the futures market is reacting, producers need to be aware that, first of all, again, the initial reaction is you could argue it's an overreaction, but it's because of the uncertainty. So, if you're caught right now kind of wanting to market some cattle, you might want to see if you can hold off a few days. More than likely, this is going to moderate a little bit. There's no guarantee of that. We don't know where this thing is headed for sure. And it also really emphasizes for producers the need to have risk management in place. Longer term, obviously it's too late for this specific situation, but longer term, these kinds of events, sometimes they're referred to as black swan events, things that you can't anticipate pop up and impact the market. So producers, even in a strong market, need to have risk management plans in place to be able to be prepared for these kinds of uncertainties.
And like you said, there's a lot of uncertainties, but one thing that is pretty certain is the dairy industry and the beef industry, their biosecurity measures are really set in place. And we are prepared for stuff like this.
Oh yeah, you know, the plans are in place. There's always initially to figure out exactly what's going on, but you know, there's really no reason for an overreaction, certainly no reaction on the part of consumers. Again, there's no risk here, or very, very low risk in terms of consumers or people at this point in time. So, you know, we just have to wait and see how we, you know, as things evolve and we learn a little bit more about this situation and figure out exactly the steps that are going to be taken to manage it.
All righty, thanks, Derrell. We'll check back in with you in a few weeks. If you would like some more information about avian influenza, just go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu.
OSU Extension veterinarians say enhanced biosecurity measures are the best way to prevent the spread of avian influenza. And the USDA has just released this fact sheet with some frequently asked questions about avian influenza. Some great information in there. We have a link for you on our website at sunup.okstate.edu. And of course, if you have questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to your own veterinarian.